on the NewsChannel 5 network. This is Titans Talk.
Hey there, and welcome into Titans Talk. Steve Lehman here with you tonight on NewsChannel 5 Plus. Great to have you join us as always on these Monday nights. Unfortunately, a little less fun to talk about tonight as opposed to the past couple of weeks as the Titans go down yesterday 34-26 to the Indianapolis Colts over at Nissan Stadium, ending a two-game winning streak. Short-lived winning streak. But for a team that hasn't had many of those in the last few years, it was a winning streak nonetheless. But a giant opportunity lost yesterday. If you were over at Nissan Stadium, you saw what was probably the best crowd in several years to watch a Titans game. It was loud. Fans were into it. It was very much a home field environment yesterday for the Titans, which hasn't always been the case the last couple of seasons. People were excited after back-to-back wins, a team being 500 this late into the season, another home game coming up on Thursday night against the Jaguars. It's an opportunity for the Titans to really kind of cement themselves back in the case for relevancy and put themselves in the discussion within the AFC South. But once again, they just cannot get over the hump against the Colts. This is now 10 straight losses, 8 in a row against Andrew Luck. And it happens in heartbreaking fashion. It wasn't a great game from the start. The Titans struggled. They got down 17-6. But they come back, take the lead in the fourth quarter. They're winning 23-20. The defense is on the field. They have the opportunity to pin their ears back, go after that mangled and beat up Colts offensive line and try to get to Andrew Luck. And they were just unable to get home. Luck driving the Colts the distance and hitting former Titan Jack Doyle to add insult to injury for what amounted to be the game-winning touchdown with 1:55 to go. Marcus Mariota then fumbled. Robert Mathis scooped it up and scored, and that ended the game for all intents and purposes. The final ended up being 34-26. As I wrote after the game, and you can see this on NewsChannel5.com if you want to go there, it wasn't just a game loss, but it was an opportunity lost for the Titans. And, you know, perhaps we should have seen this coming. Because if you've been around for any length of time and watched the Titans play, heartbreak is kind of their thing. They have given people frustrations over the years so many times. And I think, you know, if we were smart, and I did it for a long time this year, you had guarded optimism about the Titans because you knew what the potential of heartbreak with this team was. But then they go win in Miami, and they win in decisive fashion. They come back here and take care of the Browns in a businesslike manner. And so despite all the disappointments you've had over the years, you started to believe maybe this is a different team. They keep telling us they're different. Maybe they are indeed different. And despite the fact that the Titans had won just 3 of their last 19 home games, including that win against the Browns last week, and it had so much problem in recent years against the Colts, the thought was this team's different. This isn't a vintage Colts team. This is the week. This is the time that they will break through and finally beat the Colts. Essentially, and I said this on the news tonight as well, essentially the Titans were flirting with us. They were the pretty girl at the bar. And what you did as fans or even as a sportscaster looking at the team after so much frustration and losses over the past few years, you started to think about the possibility of meaningful Sundays with them. You started to think of Sundays that matter in the AFC South or the possibility of being a playoff contender down the road. All they had to do was win, beat the Colts, have another home game against the Jaguars. You can start talking about those things. And After being guarded early in the year, I think people, I know I did, started to let the guard down a bit and say, maybe this team is different. Maybe the feeling, like with the pretty girl at the bar, maybe this one's different. Maybe there's a future here. Maybe there's a hope here. But if it seemed too good to be true, as oftentimes is the case, it probably is. And yesterday showed that to be. A lot of the warts that maybe you overlooked reappeared. The Titans defense once again failed to disrupt Andrew Luck. He is a stud. We all know that. We knew that before yesterday. But yesterday he was able to play one of the best games of his NFL career. 353 yards, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. And this is with a beat up and not a very good offensive line and with an injured receiving corps. T.Y. Hilton ran through the Titans secondary yesterday. The Titans had no answers. And this is a team that has rushed the passer pretty well this year. The Colts have given up the most quarterback sacks, yet the Titans were only able to get to him twice. It was a good game plan by the Colts. It was also their guys stepping up and the Titans unable to make a play. 3rd and 13 on the final drive. There's a free rusher coming at Luck. Luck's able to step up, avoid him, make a play on his own. Complete the pass to Devin Street. They get the first down, ultimately get the touchdown on the drive. Meanwhile, Marcus Mariota, who's going to be compared to Andrew Luck, like it or not, for his entire career, because they're both good young quarterbacks in this league, and frankly, Luck got to Indianapolis and had success first. So when you look at Mariota, you're going to compare him to what Andrew Luck's doing in Indianapolis and what he's able to do here in Tennessee. And while Marcus has been great, he's a really good quarterback that I think we oftentimes forget has really just eclipsed the 16-game mark in his career because of injuries last year. So even though it's basically the midway point of his second season, he's played fewer games than that. He's certainly still learning. He's given us a lot to cheer for. The last couple of weeks, 6 touchdown passes, throw in a rushing touchdown. The Titans win when he's good. Yesterday, couple of touchdown passes, some really nice drives, but he also missed some throws that he's got to make. He missed some throws he's got to make in critical times. And then finally, that fumble that gets returned for a touchdown was the critical play that ends the game. You cannot afford to do that. And special teams, which, as we know, have been a significant issue for this team all year. Bobby April was fired a few weeks ago at 1-3. You give up a punt return in Miami the next week. It hasn't been good, but yesterday again it reared its ugly head. You drop the snap on the extra point after the opening touchdown. Instead of being up 7-0 with all the momentum, you're only up 6-0. And when the Colts drive right down the field and score themselves, you're then trailing in the game, despite getting a touchdown on your opening drive. And then after the Colts scored to make it 14-6, they line up for an onside kick, or they deceivingly go for an onside kick, but it's a formation that the Titans recognized, they were prepared for. They even had guys calling out onside kick as it was coming. They knew it was coming. They were set up for it. Philip Supernall's in position. He just can't grab onto the ball. And it goes to the turf. Indianapolis recovers, and a couple plays later, they kick a field goal to go up 17-6. That's 4 points right there directly from special teams that looms large, don't you think? I mean, when the Titans went up 23-20 in the fourth quarter after their field goal and the touchdown pass to Delaney Walker, if you take away those points, or you give the Titans the extra point, that's 24. You take away the Colts field goal, that's 17. Now all of a sudden you're protecting against a touchdown on that final drive as opposed to a touchdown beating you. It changes the complexion of the game. Special teams has killed the Titans, and it did again yesterday, and they've just got to get over this. At the end of the day, you've got to make plays to win. And to go back again, it seemed too good to be true. We've seen this before, where the Titans have given us heartbreak, and they have frustrated us. And so just like the pretty girl in the bar, the Titans in this case didn't have staying power. They ran into their nemesis, and once again, they were unable to get over the hump and win. It's going to take this team winning a few games for them to believe and for fans to believe that they can get over the hump and win these close games week in and week out and become a contender. And yes, at some point, it's going to take a win over the Colts. This streak goes back to the start of 2011. And if you remember, the Colts were terrible in 2011. That was the year before Andrew Luck. They started 0-13, finished with 2 wins. Went 2-14 on the year. One of those wins came against the Titans in week 15. The 0-13 Colts beat the Titans. That was a Titans team that was not headed to the playoffs, but certainly in the hunt at that point, where if they win that game, they might get there. And a winless team prevented them from getting there. And what you saw again yesterday was the mastery of the Colts over the Titans. And at some point, for the Titans to become a real contender, they're going to have to beat Indianapolis. Whether it's in November in Indy or sometime down the road, to really prove it, they're going to have to beat the Colts. It is a long road from the bottom to the top of the league, and that's what the Titans are trying to do after these past 2 years when they only want to combine 5 games. And what we saw yesterday is, as much as they've demonstrated that they're on the road this year, this is a better team. This is a better team than what we've seen the past couple of years. There's no question about it. Down 17-6 yesterday. If that's the last couple of years, this team may tank. And that could be a 30-6 final score. Yesterday, they fought back and gave themselves a chance to win. They just couldn't pull it off. So what we found is they're on the road. They're climbing. But they still have a long, long ways to go. 737-7767 is the number tonight. We want to hear from you. Were you there yesterday? Were you perhaps one of these fans that bought in and thought yesterday was the Sunday where the Titans could finally get that victory against the Colts, get over the hump? And what did the outcome do to you? How do you feel? Will you be back Thursday night now against the Jaguars? If not, why? Want to hear from you. Your thoughts on yesterday's game. Again, 737-7767 is the number. We will get to the highlights. We will get to the lowlights, so to speak. We'll get to some analysis, and we will get to your phone calls right after this. Stay tuned. We're just getting started here on Titans Talk here on News Channel 5+.